The Westminster Burial Grounds in Baltimore is one of the oldest cemeteries in America. There are graves that date back to the early 18th century. Edgar Allan Poe is buried at Westminster, and there are even catacombs deeply embedded in the earth. Some paranormal experts believe that if you visit these catacombs, you can hear the voices of the dead.
Westminster Cemetery is a notorious place for haunting and paranormal activity.
We've had a number of psychics come in who have heard children laughing, who have heard music playing.
There's something about that place that just doesn't sit right with me.
I would believe that this place was haunted. I definitely wouldn't want to be in here by myself at night.
The church sits atop a cemetery that was established in the late 1700s, and it was built over arches over the original cemetery.
One of the reasons that the catacombs was built was to protect the inhabitants of the graveyard. And one of the very real problems was grave robbing, particularly in the early 1800s. So the church was constructed in the mid-1850s, and it was still a problem then with securing bodies for medical research.
I do believe it's haunted. And when I lock up at nighttime, there's spirits going on, things going on around here.
I feel the presence of other spirits, old spirits.
An appropriate resting place for the greatest author of horror, Edgar Allan Poe.
There are 22 different versions of Poe's death, ranging from rabies to an overdose of alcohol to a severe beating that he suffered.
I'd like to think that Poe's spirit is still on the ground.
Poe's afterlife was like one of his gothic horror stories.
Well, he was originally buried in the back of the graveyard in an unmarked grave.
In 1875, they moved Poe's body from its original location to the front entrance. Even in death, he couldn't stay in one place.
Poe married his first cousin, Virginia, when she was not yet 13 years old.
Virginia started coughing blood when she was just 18 years old. She died at age 24.
Poe wanted his bride buried next to him in Westminster Cemetery.
The caretaker of the graveyard in New York dug up her body to bring her to Baltimore. So what he did was keep her body in a box beneath his bed for about 2 years until he could bring her to Baltimore himself. According to psychics, moving a body can be a very disturbing experience because the person doesn't really know where they belong.
In the 1980s, a startling sound recording was made in the Westminster catacombs. Some believe this might be the sound of the dead calling out. For decades, experts have wondered if this could be the voice of Edgar Allan Poe.
In EVP, the spirits manifest themselves usually as audible sounds, as words within the white noise. EVP is, I think, the most effective way of actually making contact with the spirit world. Mel Brooks did a recording in the early 80s. It is truly amazing and unique and a little unnerving. There is definitely something going on in this graveyard.
Using 21st century technology, Richard Fielding set out to recapture the sound recorded in the cemetery.
Well, basically, I've tuned this receiver, this radio receiver, to an airband channel. Between 125 and 130 megahertz works best. Here we go. My name is Richard Fielding. My intentions are peaceful. I seek the truth. Are there any spirits with us now? Well, that's definitely something that's... Is this the spirit of Edgar Allan Poe?
Richard returned to his studio to analyze the tape.
Now this is just the normal... Okay, there it is. Listen to that. It sounds kind of like a jumble, but it's because there are many voices in here. This is amazing.
Richard returned to the cemetery to determine the source of the sound.
Poe's only one of 1,000 people buried here. I think there were a lot of people who died some really terrible deaths here.
There was a grave robber by the name of Frank the Body Snatcher. Frank was an actual figure from the University of Maryland Medical School's history. Dr. John Davidge opened the medical school in 1807, and he believed that the way to teach anatomy to students was to have them dissect cadavers.
This guy came here, he got bodies, and he took them to the medical school.
Apparently, if you were caught, you would be summarily executed for snatching a body. And so in order to do it properly, you had to get in and out in under 20 minutes.
And it's interesting the way that he would do it. He would watch the obituaries or listen in the local pubs where the grave diggers would hang out. He would come into the graveyard late at night. He would dig down to the body. Once the body itself was exposed, he would take a meat hook, insert it under the chin, and pull the body out of the ground. And then what he would do, he'd take the body, put it in a cask, and fill it with rum or whiskey, go through the back entrance so that the mob didn't see him, and then he would sell the body.
$2.50 for a small body, $5 for a large.
And then the students would use the body for dissection.
Taking a quote from one of Poe's stories, there are some secrets that suffer themselves not to be revealed, and this is one of these secrets.